29th of the Fox Hill School Building Committee to order. The public can access this meeting via WebEx technology. The meeting will be held in person in the school committee room. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance is provided as a courtesy, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. Tonight's meeting number is 2347-937-5883. Password is Burlington with a capital B. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the 4/8 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion? Sure, Steve.
Topic.
Sure.
So we received a number of comments on how the minutes were reflected. So I'll turn it over to Andrea in a moment, but our hope was only to record what happened during the during the meeting. And so I don't know if it's appropriate to turn it over to folks that had some comments, but we'd be more than happy to amend them to accurately account for issues that happened during the meeting relating to kind of turnover on school committee. Andrea, I'll kind of kick it over to you and receiving some of those comments and how they've been addressed so far.
Yes, thank you everybody for reviewing them. I needed to amend some of the roll call votes. I added Martha, which I missed, and I did separate the 2 invoice roll call votes, which I had put together previously. So I changed those, and those are the minutes that you have in your folder this evening.
Thank you.
So not to further complicate things, but it came to our attention that there was some counting of votes that weren't originally accounted for. So we just want to make sure that it gets discussed on how to best accurately update the minutes, and if it's best to kind of table that until a time that it's kind of final, i.e. after tomorrow. We're happy to do that, but I think maybe it's in the best interest just to talk about how to best address it, the formal record and then the timing of that to do so, if it's okay.
I was going to say, I did notice that the minutes were updated. I mean, I didn't attend, but I did watch the meeting, and I noticed the missing votes. But technically, we don't have to vote on minutes at all. We just do it as a formality. So, I mean, I wouldn't make a big deal out of it. I just think people want things to be reflected accurately, and I think you made the corrections. So I don't think, it's appreciated. So thank you.
I'll entertain a motion. If not, we can move to the next item on the agenda. We can skip the, okay,
I'll move to approve the minutes from the 8th.
okay,
I'll second it.
okay. Mrs. Bond,
I'll abstain.
Mrs. Monaco,
Aye.
Ms. Novoychuk,
Yes.
Mr. Brooks,
Aye.
Dr. Conti, Ms.
Yes.
Ms. Kasha,
Yes.
Mr. Cuna.
Yes.
Okay, done.
And I just want to note that I abstained only because I wasn't at the meeting.
Sure. Mr. Villano. Sure. Mr. Rosenblatt.
I'm abstaining because I wasn't there.
Ms. Priest.
Aye.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Did I miss anyone on the phone? No, that's it. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. She's not voting. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 903. All right. Back to my agenda. We do not have anyone in the room for public comment. Is there any hands online? No hands. All right. And then we have a design update.
Madam Chair,
Oh,
just
sure.
I want to, I think several of us have to leave for another meeting
Oh,
at
sure.
7. So if there's anything that, if we can do the design update within that block of time, but we also wanted to answer some questions that came up at the last meeting regarding the time and materials invoices from Dorn Whittier. So I'm not sure if you want to take that out of order while we're all here. I don't want to rush through the design update.
I'm happy to take that out of order, yep.
So is that okay?
Yeah, and just while we're on that topic, once we start the design update, if we think we're going to lose quorum, just so we can close the meeting
Yep.
at the other side of the design update, just to keep that in mind. So we'll keep an eye on the time. But I think we have enough numbers-wise. Who needed to leave promptly at 7?
Okay. 3 folks.
Okay.
That keeps us at quorum, but
Okay.
Bob wasn't leaving too, right? Okay. But we can do the invoices first.
Yep. Yep.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So Nicole and I met with Steve to discuss the amendment to the invoice number 4. Some of this is a little bit weedy, but I think it makes sense to sort of talk about it. In the MSBA process, which the Fox Hill is in, the OPM contract through feasibility is a time and materials contract. The designer's contract, my understanding, is a not-to-exceed contract. So they're 2 very separate contracts. When we move into the other phase of the project, when we hopefully get funded and we'll be moving forward, the OPM's contract changes to a not-to-exceed, and the designer remains a not-to-exceed, so for the second half of the project. Looking at Doran Whittier's time and materials, which this was, there were some unpredicted costs that we went through that I do think are reflected accurately in the amendment here. Some of the hours were for the additional public meetings that we had regarding the choice to consolidate or keep a for-school process. I think we had additional public meetings. Also, and I say this with the utmost respect, is having a full school committee on a building committee does add time and posting challenges and some other issues. So in many school building projects, there would just be 2. So again, 2 members. So Nicole and I, again, reviewed the amount. We can cover this amount within the initial allotment that we have. We did ask whether we would have the same problem with the high school OPM contract, because Doran Whittier is our vendor there as well. But because that is not an MSBA project, that is a not-to-exceed contract. So that is not a time and materials contract. So it's a completely different structure. So we don't feel like we're going to bump into this at the high school. And again, we won't bump into this moving forward because the second phase of Fox Hill will be a not-to-exceed contract. So I support the amendment to number 4 in the amount of, is that 98.8? So Nicole, I'm not sure if you want to add anything
No, you have everything.
other than your support, I guess, is what I would.
I'd second it.
Wanted to also clarify, you said there's roughly still $30,000 left in the original feasibility study budget, and that only needs to last through about August timeframe, and there's no anticipated additional vendors or anything coming down the line. So this doesn't put us over budget.
So not from Doran Whittier. The question, I guess, is to Danisco on their contract for any other consultants or studies needed to round out costs to wrap up the study phase to get us through SD.
So we were requested to do some turning movements, turning radius for the traffic, and that was about $2,000. That isn't a lot. We were holding off on that contract amendment so we could also incorporate some additional borings and some test pits that we wanted to do. Just now that we have an actual footprint, we know exactly where the school is going. And so we're getting those costs from from GZA, our,
Actually, just to clarify, it's soil pre-characterization, so we're in the process of confirming quantities, and the number of samples that we take is kind of based on the amount of soil we anticipate to take off-site.
no, sorry, thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
So we will be within the 30.
So again, Madam Chair, my suggestion is, again, with our support, if there's any other discussion, that would be fine, but it may make sense to table this vote until our next SBC meeting, and just move forward from that time. Steve, you said that Doran Whittier could manage with that delay in terms of the table, so I would almost consider this like a first reading and a second reading, so if people have any questions or anything like that, we can certainly answer them, but again, Nicole and I looked at this, and we're supportive of this change.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion?
Just the one
Oh,
question, Madam
yeah.
Chair. So based on the current burn rate, we think we're good in what we've spent to this point, and then we do have $30,000 in ceiling left?
So if this amendment was approved, we'd have $35,063 remaining.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Ms. Bond?
Aye.
Ms. Monaco? Aye. Mr. Wojcik?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks?
Aye.
Dr. Conti?
Yes?
Ms. Kasha?
Yes.
Mr. Cuna?
Yes.
Mr. Denizio? Oh, sorry, I wrote the wrong thing. Mr. Rosenblatt?
Yes.
Mr. Volano?
Yes.
Ms. Priest?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
And I vote yes. It's 12, right? Yep, 12-0-0. Mm-hmm. All right, so circling back up to the design update.
Now you're all getting a preview here. That's true. We did add a few more slides. All right, great, thank you. All right, so we are now very near the end of the drawing phase for schematic design. In about a week and a half, we'll have our cost estimate package complete, and that then will go to the cost estimators so that we can develop that project budget, project scope and budget for submission to MSBA at the end of June. So we just wanted to go over where we are with you. We've hopefully taken you clearly through the process. We'll start with a site plan, which we've reviewed with you at our last meeting. Nothing has changed on the site plan. However, we did have a couple of great meetings, one with public safety, police and fire, as well as with DPW and engineering, to confirm that they're in agreement with this layout. We confirm driveway sizes, circulation, confirm where the fire might want fire hydrants. So we're drilling down to a few details because we want to be able to carry the scope for the cost estimate. So no changes. We may be narrowing down the driveway a little bit for the van, in the van area, but again, we're studying that further. We're carrying the scope that we need to for the playground. As you'll see, this playground is not really designed, but it's designed to have an outdoor classroom area, right? I'm going to use this pointer. Right to the north of the center area of the school. There's going to be direct access to this outdoor learning area from the central corridor, and then from the cafeteria, we'll have a batch of fixed seating along a retaining wall that outlooks over the wetland area. These spots that you'll see and squares, that denotes a painted play surface. So this is all asphalt at this point, this light tan area, and will be painted so that kids, when they come out for recess, can play basketball. These are 2 basketball stanchions next to the gym. The purple pear shape is where the rubber surfacing is for the playground equipment. And then there's direct access from the playground area to the fields. The circulation remains as we had last discussed, with a total separation of cars in the blue, with the blue lines, the vans with the purple, and buses all dropping off with their dedicated drop-off areas. So with reviewing the site with the DPW and engineering, we reviewed some of the stormwater strategies that we'll share with you now. Thank you. Excuse me. So starting with the play surface area, it's moving around. The rubberized play surface is actually permeable, so it allows the stormwater and any moisture to actually permeate through into the ground. The areas that the roof is collecting stormwater, so from roof drains, will be collected and actually stored in a cistern below ground, and that will be used for flushing, for gray water use inside the building, which is really great that we're able to do that. Actually supports the stormwater design on this site. It helps the stormwater design. The area, the traffic circle area will collect stormwater from this area and allow that to settle and drain. The area that we're calling the front yard, I'm not going to touch this. Keeps moving it. The area in front of the school, which we're calling the front yard, is actually going to be a shallow bioretention area. So that, again, will collect stormwater. It will have plantings and will support some really nice bioculture there as well. And then, most importantly, the parking lot actually is not a porous parking lot, as this is incorrectly stating. I thought we had corrected this. Porous paved parking lots require a good amount of maintenance. So in discussing this with DPW, they actually request, they would like it if we did not have to go that route, just because of the experience and how they can support the site. So at this point, we're actually designing this to have subsurface structures that will then collect the water. The reason that the porous paved parking lot works a little bit better is because we have high groundwater, but we can certainly make the below grade structures work. So that's kind of stormwater in a nutshell, and there's more to come. This project will require Conservation Commission approval, so with that comes stormwater management design as well as stormwater calculations. So that's more to come.
Vivian, are you going to talk more specifically about the safety meeting, or did we just cover it with the last slide?
We kind of, well, for the site, we covered it, but do you have specific questions?
Well, I just want to say I thought both police and fire were very favorable of the building layout. I think they liked the driveway, sort of the accessibility all around. I think you also talked about bollards and some other stationary benches. And they were favorable to that. I really enjoyed your fire consultant. Was it Kevin? I'm trying to think of his name.
Yes.
They really talked about where the fire alarm placement was be, so they really got that specific in terms of needing to be within 15 feet of any staircase or exit. And so I think the captain of the Burlington Fire Department, again, was very pleased with the conversation. The building is actually 2-story, which we all know. There was a question as to whether, because there's a staircase that goes up to the roof, whether it needs to be permitted as a 3-story, but it does not. That was a question, Vivian, that you answered, because the roof isn't occupied, so it's not considered that. So even if there's a staircase going up, it still presents as a 2-story building. Interestingly, and a little bit tangential, but something that is sort of important to me, is your fire consultant said any police or fire station needs to have a diesel generator because it's the only sort of truly independent power source moving forward. This is not an emergency site. We're not designing it to be an emergency site, but having lived through the gas explosions in Andover, Lawrence, North Andover, again, I'm sort of still promoting the idea that we need to work with Planning Board to have a sort of self-contained generator with a fuel source that we can power the school. So again, we can build it with gas, I understand that, but I found it interesting that he said if this were a police station or a fire station, it would be required to have a diesel generator associated with it. Was that correct?
Yes.
I want to make sure I'm not lying.
Yeah.
Donna.
You did.
Yep. No, it's to provide an uninterruptible source, energy source, so gas, even though we all think it is even better because you don't have to refuel and everything else, but for emergency, fire, police, you have to have diesel.
But again, I thought the Burlington Fire and Burlington Police were very happy with the design and the layout of the outside.
Yeah. No, and that was primarily why we met with them, because we wanted to make sure that they didn't ask for any additional changes. And so, thank you. That was a great synopsis. And we do actually have some updates with regard to the building specifically, but we are now having a little bit of a technical difficulty.
Yeah, we may have to just have them do it on theirs for a second.
Ms. Simon?
While you're working on the next slide, on the slide regarding stormwater, this is not about stormwater,
Right.
but in talking about the parking lot, I'm wondering if there's another place where there's infrastructure for solar canopies in the parking lot, and if there's another place, I'll wait, or if there isn't, it occurred to me this would be a place you could explain what the status of that is.
Yep.
Thank you.
So the parking lot as designed,
Sorry, I'm trying to mute it. Okay. That should be muted now.
hello? All right, so the parking lot as designed would provide space enough for solar canopies. At this point, I think what's still up in the air is whether those, even the photovoltaics on the roof, whether that would be through a PPA or whether that would be something that the town would be interested in purchasing. At this point, we could certainly price it as part of the schematic design package if it was to be purchased, just so that you all have a sense of what that might cost. But the solar canopies would require the planning board's approval. I think at our last meeting, we talked about the fact that we were unsure whether the parking lot area is considered a front yard, which would then be more of an issue with the zoning regulations, but the building inspector did confirm that he would consider the parking lot area a side yard. So that is really less of a concern and more of a, it's more of a just review with planning board and having them approve it as part of their site plan approval process. I hope that helps. We
If I can-
definitely are designing the building to support rooftop PVs, so that the structure will be supporting that. And then in addition to the solar canopies, our site plan, unfortunately, right now doesn't show it, but we did have a test well drilled for geothermal wells back in February. I think we reported that the results were favorable. And in fact, we're able, the conductivity actually came in very favorably. They're able to drill all the way down to the 500-foot mark, which is typically the depth that these boreholes are. And so we're anticipating, at this point, we're carrying about 76 to 80 wells for cost estimating purposes.
If I
Pardon the
could follow
technical
up.
difficulties. We're trying to get the screen share and slideshow back up for those following along, so.
If I could follow up, what prompted me to ask the question is that when talking about stormwater management, You mentioned that the pavement will not be porous, and there will be substructures. And it's my understanding that there's a need for substructures of some kind, conduits or something, in order to do. And so will the infrastructure, whatever it is, be able to be integrated with the substructures that are managing the stormwater? And is that being included in the price of, the costs and the planning and the design, so that, because obviously it's easier to do it when you're rebuilding the parking lot than later on.
Yep.
So that was part of my question. Can you answer
Sure.
that?
Yes, so before we move too far down the design route, we would coordinate with a solar, either the PPA or a solar consultant, and have them design the canopy system. What we do know is that these canopies have fairly large piers that sit on footings that are also very large. And there are two ways that they could install these. These could be continuous footings that is maybe 10 feet wide, going all the way down the length of the parking lot, or they could be self-contained, discrete footings. So we would design it in such a way that we would install these subsurface structures between what's needed for the canopies. And in fact, it's a little easier if it's not porous pavement, because then you don't need to worry about the different multi-layers of drainage when you're actually drilling for these footings.
So the substructures wouldn't be interfering with that?
No.
Okay, great.
No.
Thank you.
Long way of saying that. Great. Are we?
Bob's got the newest one. He just has to forward it.
Do you? Oh, it's you. Okay.
Thank you. Do you have a rough idea of how much this a project like that or an addition like that would cost? What it would add to the project?
Donna may be able to answer that.
It really depends on how many that we're looking to accommodate. We're purchasing them for another project. It's adding about $2 million as part of the overall project. And how many parking spaces is this?
112.
This is about, well, we're not carrying, yeah, so it's, so that was 100, I'm just trying to do the math here. Like 2 million would be for less than the entire parking lot. But that was also going out to bid this summer, and this is going to be escalated. So we're happy to do a cost-benefit analysis, right? And work with the school department and try to understand what the solar will generate on the roof, as well as what it can be supported in the parking lot, so we can determine if it makes sense to purchase or if you just want to go through a PPA.
I have a follow-up question. What is the replacement timeline like for these types of solar panels? Are they similar to like the solar panels I have on my roof, like 30 years?
Yeah, well, so the panels themselves would be about 20 years is what we're hearing. Is that what they're telling you in your roof? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just wonder if at another meeting you could provide us with some images so we could see what they look like. I've heard some comments about them not being very attractive.
I think we could go into business and design some beautiful solar canopies and make a lot of money. You're right. We can show. They're getting better. They are getting better. A few examples would be, I know Lexington, in all of their elementary, not at the high school, elementary and middle schools, all have canopies in their parking lots. They're large structures, sure. But yeah, we can show some images.
They're very utilitarian, so they can be designed like anything, but we're trying to balance, or we're often in the middle of trying to balance cost and aesthetics and schedule and everything. So it's, as Donna mentioned, we're happy to provide some examples, show what they could look like, and how they could be designed. Let's put it that way. But at the end of the day, it's, a decision and something to be managed like a lot of the design aspects of the building.
Roger, yeah. We need solar in some capacity to meet some of these incentives, correct? Or we might? some of the energy incentives, do we need solar to meet them, or no?
No.
No,
You
okay.
mean for the IRA, which is for the ground source heat pumps? You do not. That is strictly, if you put in ground source heat pumps, you get that money. Mass saves incentives are not including the PV or the solar canopies. Mass saves is based on a low EUI, which we're going to achieve 25 or less, so that's not dictated by it. I believe the IRA has additional incentives that would actually help support or pay for PVs, but that's not included in any of these calculations. Yeah.
So I guess I'll put in a pitch for saying, yes, I'd like to see that evaluation of what it would cost. And it sounds like it doesn't have to be part of schematic design, or you'd already be saying that it was part of it. We'd already figured that out. So anyway, yes, I'd like to see that cost benefit and what it would mean, and so we can make a judgment about, PPA versus owning it.
Yep.
Sorry, one related question. I think earlier you said in order to figure out how much PV you would need to understand the energy use of the building. And I wondered whether, does that come out of schematic design, or is that later?
We have already done a preliminary energy model, and we're going to do another one at the end of schematic design.
All right.
So we'll have that now that we know more information about, we're definitely using ground source heat pumps, we're definitely using the chill beams. So we'll have, or we're not using chill beams, I'm sorry.
Fan coil.
Fan coils. So we'll have more information, and once the design is developed. Actually, do we give them to them? We're giving it to them when we submit our cost estimate drawings for the updated energy model.
The energy model?
Yeah.
Yes, or the modelers will get the drawings at the same time.
At the same time.
Yeah.
So
Great.
we'll have that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, Bob. Thank you. So Eric, I lied, I apologize. We did go over some of the features that we would incorporate in the site design with regard to security. So we did discuss this with the public safety folks. We would incorporate a series of bollards, which can be lit, which is the center image on the slide. There's also bollards that are not lit, and what we looked at were incorporating a series of bollards and benches so that you don't see a sea of bollards as you drive up, but that the bollards really do help with security and safety so that folks, if there's an errant vehicle that might hit the accelerator instead of the brake, those who are on the sidewalk on the plaza, the entry plaza area, would be protected. Similarly, the image on the lower left is a bench, if you could believe it. We call it the twig bench. That is concrete. And we like to locate those in strategic areas, again, in the front plaza. So as we're looking at the design of this front plaza area, we're looking at ways to not design a fortress, but to provide barriers so that there are no straightaways that vehicles can accelerate and run into the building, into the kids, into the parents. So we're looking at how we can provide those maybe in a way that's kind of shielding, but not creating a whole blocked area. And then again, we'll be using some of these concrete benches that have some nicer wood features or wood-like features to soften up the landscape. So we did discuss these, and police and fire didn't have any issues with them. We did talk about providing some mountable curbs so that the fire can have access all the way around the building, and even past the, how we have the boulevard in the center? There you go. I don't know if you can see that very well, but so that if the fire, so the red lines along the painted play areas would be the path that the fire apparatus would take, and they would continue through and around to the front of the building. So if they're driving along where the blue arrows are, they could continue through to where the pink arrows are, so they would have complete access around the building. And so that was something that they were really pleased with. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, We'll just keep going. Some of the other features that we will be incorporating in our scoping package as a basis of design is to develop that rooftop outdoor learning area a little further. So we're going to be including a raised planted area so that folks of any ability can access this planter. We'll also incorporate a modular paving system, probably more likely in the next slide, concrete units, which are a lot more durable than wood. We'll also, this is a system that is modular. They're 24 by 24 inch squares. Oftentimes the plant areas that are at grade or at the paving level are also 24 by 24. So we'll be incorporating that as well. And then finally, we talked a little bit about shading in that area because it faces due south. So on the right-hand corner, the blue images are really these very cool tensile fabric structures that we're going to look at incorporating on that rooftop outdoor learning area. All right, next. Okay. Here's our building. In terms of the relationship of spaces, that really hasn't changed, but we've been really developing some of the spatial features of the main building, the main corridors, the main lobbies, and we'll share some of those images with you in a bit. The most important change on the building is that we added a fourth stair. So if you look at the purple spaces, that is the academic wing. So from the academic wing, now there is another stair that is much closer to, if you look at the right-hand side, Bob, maybe, yep. So we added this kind of curved stair, which leads the kids on the second floor more directly down and into the lobby area, leading them to the cafeteria and to the gym. We still have a fairly large stair on the left. We're calling that the western stair, which is where the kids coming on buses would drop off and enter the school. They would either enter and go straight to their classrooms on the first floor or go up those stairs to the second floor. In the center of the school, the green area is the admin suite. As you enter the building from the front there, you'll also see a stair that is actually in brown next to, right across the corridor. Yep, so that's a third stair. And then the fourth stair is right over there next to the gym. So one of the priorities for this school is to maintain separation from the second floor when the first floor is being used after hours. So we designed an enclosure around each of those stairs that are on the east side of the admin area so that folks coming in using the gym and the cafeteria would then not be allowed to go up to the second floor. There's another set of doors that separate the academic area from the main lobby. Again, that also provides us security from folks using the building during off hours. And then when you go up to the second floor, it's pretty much wide open. So you'll see, again, in the center, there are the two stairs, one right across from the bright yellow space, that's the media center library. And then the one over on the left of that is our nice curved stair that, again, leads directly from the academic spaces down. Are there any questions?
So the media center can't be used off hours?
The
or
way
as
this
a
is
community space?
currently, it's
Okay.
designed to be wide open, but we
Okay.
could add a set of doors next to the curved stair to close that off.
Good.
So can I just comment on your question? So because of the stairways from downstairs, you have the ability to shut off the upstairs access to the media center in this design, but you can open the doors as well and provide access to upstairs. So
Okay,
if you
but
don't want
if
people
once you
upstairs-
access the upstairs, it's the whole upstairs, right?
Right.
Correct.
At this
Yeah.
point,
Okay.
we could, if there's, you know,
I mean, I'm just commenting because I know like we use the Marshall Simons Library as like an awfully common space. I think we've always held PTO meetings in the library. Again, if we are willing to open it up, that's fine. I know after school likes to use the library. I'm just asking, it doesn't have to be open, but
Why don't we add a set of doors there to separate the academic areas, just so that there's the flexibility of closing it off? It doesn't mean that it has to be closed off, but we could certainly do that.
Vanna, could you go to the previous slide? So similar to, it actually, where you'll see where the doors are on the first floor, but we could put them there, or actually on the other side of the stair on the second floor.
Actually, yeah, so, sorry, Bob. Could you zoom in, please? What we would need to do is likely place a couple of sets of doors to separate the suite. So what we've done is created a couple of suites that are where the offices are, the purple to the north, and there's some purple in the staff area to the south of the curved stair. So we'll need to design it in such a way that we minimize the number of doors. We might need to reconfigure some of this a little bit. I think what the priority would be is to still provide access to the elevator when the building is open to the public for access to the library. So we can easily create a set of doors there to separate that out. Okay, sure. All right, why don't we keep going, because we're really excited to share some images that we've been developing. We use CAD as a tool to do design, so we're always checking three-dimensionally what it looks like. This is a plan of the roof, just to show you in a light gray fill the space that can be used for a rooftop PV. It's a pretty wide open roof. We've been able to, at this point, locate the equipment so that to the north side, that roof to the north side is lower. So we are keeping the higher roofs as open as possible. On the left-hand side, where the academic wing is, we have a fairly large energy recovery unit, and that will be screened by an acoustic screen. But the remaining part of the roof at this point is wide open for PVs. We'll also be providing a direct stair access to the roof, again, for convenience for maintenance, as well as for the public safety for the fire prevention to get up to the roof.
I think at some point you had mentioned you were going to study 1 versus 2 energy recovery units, and I know that was maybe as late as last week, so I don't know if you've made any progress or kicked that around with consultants yet.
Yeah, we've put that out there with our consultant. He's taking a look at it, because with 1 unit on the academic roof, there's a good amount of ductwork that then needs to kind of head down south or down eastward towards the gym. So we're looking at how we can be as efficient as possible with our systems. And that is something that we may price out as an alternate, Steve. All right.
With the exception of that 1 unit, though, it does look like it's fairly open. So a lot of sight lines from parking and approaching the building seem pretty favorable.
So it's a trade-off, right? So we have 2 units. The 2 units are not going to be half the size. You know, each of those are not going to be half the size of that large unit. But it will save with ductwork for sure. It's probably going to be a little bit more costly to have a second unit, but again, there's a trade-off with the amount of duct.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, so I think we shared this last time as we're looking at how the building starts to take shape with the spaces inside. We have started looking at what windows might look like, what materials might look like, and on the next slide, we've refined the design a little bit further from our last meeting. We currently are not showing very expansive canopies. We had this discussion with the working group this past week. The priority seemed to be adding some more canopy over at the gym entrance, because that potentially could be used quite a bit, especially after school with the after-school program. Also, that could be the entrance where the kids and the egress point where kids are dismissed to parent pickoff because that's a lot closer to the parent drop-off area. We are extending the canopy a little bit further over at the bus area, and we will study a canopy on the front of the building, but as someone had pointed out at one of these meetings, it really isn't protecting the kids coming off of the vans or the cars. It really kind of is a gathering space, so we might actually create a little bit wider and more expansive canopy coming right off of the building instead of having something linear covering up the front of the building. And then we have some shots closer up. So that might be something that the school might look like. So what we're looking at is a primarily brick building with some architectural concrete masonry units. That's the lighter material that is down low. And that would create a base that kind of spins around the building and creates a unifying element at the base. Right now, we are designing the building to have sunshades on the south side, so that would provide some solar relief from the sun during certain hours and certain seasons of the year. We are integrating, so you'll see kind of a deeper green material. That's a metal panel along with some phenolic, which is a dense plastic material that has a wood print on it. So again, just looking at how to make this building really sing with some natural colors and natural materials. Next. Here's a view of the bus drop-off area. We will have some walls that are just won't have windows because that's a factor of the program where we have large expansive teaching walls and we don't want windows there. But where we can, we will install windows. We're also needing to balance the window to wall ratio. So again, this feeds right directly into the energy model and how efficient our systems and how efficient our building is. So right now we're just a little bit over where we want to be. So we're looking at kind of honing down the windows, using them in strategic areas where we really want to have that natural daylight going in and out of the building. Next. And then this is the front.
But Vivian, just before you jump off of that, I just want to make sure everyone is aware that that blank wall will not look like that. That there's a lot of conversation, a lot of different ways of articulating a wall with no windows, and we'll be studying that heavily during design development.
Yes.
I just don't
Thanks,
want,
Donna.
I can imagine.
No, and I do want to reiterate that this is by no means the final, this is not the design. You know, at schematic design, we want to create imagery so you can imagine what the building might look like. You can imagine what some of these materials might feel like. Brick comes in so many different colors. We're going to be talking more about this at the next design phase. We'll bring materials, you can touch, you can feel, you can say, no, we don't like these colors. And so at that point, we're going to continue to refine the design. And as Donna says, this blank wall could be a mixture of different colored brick. It could be a different texture of brick. The texture, you know, the bricks can corbel out, they can recess in. It really, you can do so much with brick. It's such a beautiful material. A what? Oh. Yes, that too.
Ms. Monaco has a question.
Could you explain what you mentioned about why there are some blank walls and ratio? When did a...
Yes, sorry. So the blank walls, because of how our program is laid out, we have classrooms next to classrooms, and then within each space, thank you, Bob, if you could zoom in, typically in our classrooms, one full wall is what we call a teaching wall, and that is usually it usually has a fairly large whiteboard with a projector and then tack surfaces next to it. The other side of the classroom, the opposite wall, would typically have a storage wall that has adjustable shelves with sliding whiteboards that then take up a lot of wall space. So you'll see that because Bob has, what's white are the built-ins in each of these classrooms. And then the opposite side wall is what would have the whiteboard. So it's kind of challenging to try to get windows on these ends. We have and we will look at adding them where we can. But again, there are many different ways we could treat the material, the exterior material that is really quite lovely.
And to answer your question about the window-to-wall ratio, that's really an energy code requirement that we have to maintain a 22% amount of window to the overall wall. So it's all about energy conservation and retaining the heat inside the building.
At this point, you actually have to reduce the number of windows?
I think we're close to.
We're very close. We just have, we have a lot of expansive glass. So it's beautiful, but at the same time, we might take a panel or two away from the end. So you'll see that the west end there, that is a stairwell that's all enclosed in glass. So we probably don't need it to be a glass box. So there are areas that we're going to just kind of shave down a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I think as the design develops, it would be helpful for committee members to know where there's some latitude and where you actually, have very limited options in where to put windows and curtain wall. But I appreciate the comment that the design is somewhere between what's on the screen and nothing like what's on the screen. So it's, having been through the process, I know how it kind of plays out, but it's always a little challenging to throw the first thing up on the wall to react to. But hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. Thank you. Through the chair. Okay. Next. I think we talked about that. And here's just a snapshot of some of the materials we're looking at. So I don't know if you can see it on your screen, but brick, again, has different shapes. What we're looking at is a Norman size, which is slightly longer than your standard modular, standard traditional brick. Brick comes in different colors. In this case, there's a mix of 2 to 3 different colors, and then there's actually one that's textured. It kind of is striated, and when it goes on the wall on the outside and the sun hits it a certain way, it'll look like it's a different color. So we're looking at this, but again, not at all decided that this is what it's going to be. This is just to kind of get your just to kind of get the juices going and to elicit some feedback. If any of you say, yeah, we really want a brown brick or what have you, it's just good to hear. But again, all of the colors they're not going to be decided, really not for another year, probably.
And just to add to that, I think the exterior working group is we're looking to that working group to really participate, and we'll be meeting with them frequently and getting their input. We like this color, we don't like this color, do something different on that wall, whatever. It's difficult when we meet infrequently here, and so at the next phase, we'll be meeting very frequently with that group.
Yep.
So they'll help give us input, feedback that we'll be bringing back to the committee.
Okay, next. All right, so what we're also going to be sending to our cost estimators is what's called a basis of design, where we actually spell out what some of these materials are so that they could be incorporated in the cost estimate. So using some of the projects that we visited, that we've completed, we're in photo form trying to explain what some of our basis of design components are. So one of the main pieces is really the entrance lobby. What is that going to look like? What is that going to feel like? What we're designing at this point is an open reception desk area that could then be closed off by glass panels. You'll see on the lower right-hand corner, maybe you might have to zoom in. These panels are sliding glass panels that when the school is closed, Kristen can just pull them closed and they lock at the bottom. So they would come from both directions. You can kind of see them poking out. But during the day, it really provides a wide open reception area so that the folks back there can feel very connected to the school. The other component, design component, is that when you walk into the school, we want you to feel like you're connected to the second floor. So we're looking at how to create openings. The image on the upper right-hand corner is of the Amesbury Elementary School, the Shea Memorial. And while we can't really accomplish such a big opening, we're going to have some openings in the floor so that when you walk in, you can actually see what's going on up on the second floor. Next.
Just wanted to call your attention, it's about 5 minutes of 7, so if there's any key kind of images or things you're hoping to get to with everybody here?
Well, we can certainly buzz through them, just so that folks can see them. And I think we can do that in 5 minutes. All right, go, Bob. Yeah. A view from the main entrance into the main lobby. Here's a view from the main lobby down towards the academic area. You can kind of see the stair poking up. That's behind the green there. Yep. And what we're doing also, what we want to do is incorporate some really fun images and environmental graphics. That is also a way to teach kids as they're, walking down the corridor. They can kind of learn about, I don't know, the life of a fairy shrimp, or, something having to do with their outdoor natural environment. So we want to fold that into it too.
Madam Chair, just, will we have a SBC before, will we have an SBC before town meeting? No? I don't think we do. Are we planning on having sort of
No.
a hallway presence for town meeting with some boards of something? Can we get some posters and?
Sure.
We don't have to, I'm just wondering if that's.
We have an
something
executive committee meeting tomorrow, so we
Okay.
can talk about that.
We can talk about that
Yeah.
tomorrow?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. The FAS, is that? So Andrea will update. So apologies, the presentation we shared last Friday has been updated with more interior images. So Andrea will provide an updated presentation. On the website? Yeah, on the website. Thank you. Okay, so why don't we keep going? I think we shared some of these images last time of what a library can look like. We have spaces for tabletop activities, spaces for classroom activities, such as on the right-hand side. We design the libraries in a way that the spaces are flexible, and some of this comes in when we look at furniture, so the furniture is easy to move around and reconfigured. A lot of times the bookshelves that are kind of in the center of the library space can actually be moved. They're on casters, so that when you need larger gathering spaces, that can occur too in the library. And then this is a view of what it could potentially look like. This is actually from the second floor corridor looking into our new library. You'll see that the railing system we're looking at is a glass rail system that allows kids the most amount of visual access and connectivity to stuff going on below. This also has a good amount of windows inside, so this does not fold into the window-to-wall ratio that we have to worry about for the energy code. But what we want to do is provide as much transparency between some of these spaces and the corridors so that we're borrowing natural daylight. You'll see beyond this wall, this glass wall, is another set of windows, and that is really the exterior windows, so we'll be able to get a good amount of natural daylight coming into the space. Next. And here's a view of the library. Again, these lights are not going to be the lights that we will end up with. These are there just to kind of give you a sense of the volume and the scale. Next. So the gym that, again, apologies, we don't have any renderings of the gym, but what we do know is that it will be a full-size regulation gym. We will have space for bleachers. We will have a climbing wall. We will have 6 basketball backboards that are electrically operated. They're adjustable height. They can fold up. The side ones definitely fold up so that when there's a real game going on, the 2 main backboards are down. There will be a scoreboard. We will be talking at some point about painting on the court. There are many different things we can do. We can keep it simple. Amesbury wanted pickleball courts painted, which is really kind of funny and fun. We also do want to bring in a good amount of natural daylight into the gym because that really is important for the kids to be able to see what's going on with the seasons, with the changing of the time, the sun movement, and all. So we're very careful about where those windows are when they're facing direct sun. We often use what's called fritted glass. It's kind of this pixelated print that's on the glass, so it doesn't allow all the sunlight. It kind of filters the sunlight through. So we're looking at carrying scope such as that in our estimate.
Vivian, we have a question online. Jen, Ms. Priest?
Oh.
As being an athlete that's utilized spaces like this, I played basketball in college. Some courts had these lights, windows, and they definitely caused like a disruption to play because of the way the sun was setting. Are there any examples of the filtered light windows that you were just discussing?
These on the left are not. The one on the right, I don't know if you can see. The sun's not coming in directly from the east, but you can see that the glass has a different, well, maybe you can't because this is poor. Yeah, can you see it's a little fuzzed out? Yep. So there are different percentages of fritting, and there's actually other kind of window treatments that create different levels of translucency and opacity. So we'll study that a little further, but totally get that, yeah.
And which way would, like, also with the way the building's facing, I guess it depends on which sides of the gym you're putting the windows on as well with the sunsets.
Right, so the gym faces east. The largest expanse is facing east. And again, we won't have a continuous strip. We will likely break that up so that there will be some walls with some strips of windows. So the long wall faces east, then there's the south wall, and the north wall we wouldn't need to treat at all. The south wall will have a good amount of roof overhang, so that would during, again, noontime, that period of time, a 2-3 hour period, you won't have any sun coming through. The nice thing is that the west side, we have no windows on the west side, so that's kind of the worst, that's the most difficult sunlight to control.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I remember touring the Harold Wyman School, and was there a gym upstairs?
Yes.
Yeah, and I just remembered that there were some comments about how hot it gets, and I just want to make sure that whatever we do, it's not going to bother people like it seems to bother the people that I spoke to over at that school.
Yeah, for sure. I think, it's wonderful that we have so many south-facing windows, but definitely that's an area where there's a lot of heat gain, so we're going to be really careful about that. Yeah, and that does also fold into the calculations for sizing of equipment. So our engineers do take into account the amount of glass and the orientation of it. So, but we want to help them out too and not design something that is just full-on south-facing glass. All right. Okay, in the cafeteria, we call it a platform because when you call something a stage evokes more stringent code requirements. So as a platform, it will have 3 steps up. It's about 18 inches higher than the floor of the cafeteria. within that platform area, we're actually going to have an operable partition that would allow the platform area to be closed off so that it could be used for instrumental music. We'll also, similar to, so the large image here on the left is of the Hurl Wyman cafeteria, and that has windows also that are along the side of the platform. And that would really create more of a classroom-like feel than if we didn't have windows. So that is kind of a design feature of our stage or our platform. We will have a ramp that leads directly from the cafeteria up to the platform. And then on the corridor side, what we want to do is also create a really nice feeling of transparency, again, similar to the library, to bring as much natural daylight in as possible into the corridors.
And again, just comments made in that particular tour, and I think I brought them up with you, but people were saying that the stage wasn't quite high enough, so I want to make sure that ours is high enough for people to see, because again, when you're all sitting at the same level, it's hard to see when it's down lower. And then the second comment, and I know we're probably limited to amount of space we can make this cafeteria area, but parents were complaining that they have to text each other and swap spots to go in and watch their kids because there's not enough room to watch, everyone to be in there to watch what's going on for whatever event's going on. So I want to think ahead on those things and design it properly so we're not in that same situation.
Yeah, I think, well, Vivian, if you want to chime in about the height, you're saying the height of the risers, right? The stairs. I don't know if we can go higher than 18 inches without then triggering other code issues. One way to address that is just making sure that we use actual risers on the stage so that the students are actually standing on risers for everyone to be able to see, or those what we call flip forms. They're a little more playful design that also function as risers. But as it relates to the total number of people that can sit in the auditorium, in the cafetorium, we know that it is the goal to be able to fit as many people. We're also confined by MSBA guidelines. We've maximized the square footage that we're allowed in the cafeteria so that you can have, I think it's 2 seatings based on the lower enrollment.
Yes.
Yeah, of 325, right?
Right.
So you could probably get butts on the floor, but you won't be able to get a full assembly with all of the parents in the cafeteria at the same time. So I want to make sure that we're fully transparent that you're not going to be able to. So how the school manages that, whether it's multiple assemblies or lower grades and then upper grades, or how that might work. But that is a MSBA guideline that they don't like to bend on, unfortunately.
Okay, why don't we keep going?
Just a clarifying question. So that's based on the number, let's say, 2 lunches, 325, 162 roughly, but based on the number of cafeteria tables that are there. So ultimately, if we were to have less tables and some chairs, we could have some flexibility.
The number of
Not permanently, I'm saying in the event, because we do that currently at some of our cafeterias right now, where we remove those tables and line up chairs in order to accommodate an event. So again, table seatings may be different than individual seatings, and we may be able to increase that number.
So we do look at how we could set up assembly type seating, and we can accommodate about 230, I think is what I believe that's the number we came up with.
It's about 7 square feet, right?
Thereabouts.
But then you have to accommodate for aisles and egress and everything else. We can show you the layouts, like we've
we
done
have
that,
them.
right?
Yep. Mhm.
Yeah, we can show you how that all lays out.
Right.
And then, kids with their butts on the ground as opposed to actually chairs is totally different.
But there will be occupancy limits, right, that are computed and regulated by fire or something, right?
So the occupancy of the school is based on the square footage of each of the, oh, for the cafeteria. Okay, I was going general. So yes, it's based on the square footage of the actual cafeteria. So we've tried to maximize it to fit as many people as we could in chairs. But again, as Donna said, it's a net square footage. It's based on, you take out space that you would need for exit aisles, per se, right? And the chairs would not be, back to back because you need space to get folks in and out. So based on that, it's a net of 230 people or so. Yep. Okay. All right, and then as we look at how we could treat some of these stairs, so the beauty of a two-story school is that the stairs do not need to be rated. Similar to if you had a three-story school, the stairs would all need to have a 1-hour rated enclosure. So because we want to close off the first floor from the second floor, we're providing an enclosure, but we're able to actually design it in such a way that we could provide more glass on the inside so that it feels a little bit more open and transparent. Again, as you're walking along the first floor, you'll be able to see where those stairs are. As such, we want to be able to, again, bring in much of the natural materials. So a judicious use of wood. In this case, this is a school that I cannot remember which school that was, but this is not one of our, it's in Washington State, my hometown. So I'm not sure the name of the school, but we really loved how they mixed the wood with the glass rail, and we kind of envision this as kind of the feel of the school. A lot of natural wood, some fun graphics, and again, a lot of transparency between spaces. The image on the upper right-hand corner, we will have some stairs with good expanses of wall. We do install tile on a lot of these walls for durability, but we also want to kind of activate some of these stairs with some fun graphics as well. So again, in the next design phase, we're going to be looking at how we can introduce some fun graphics that are specific to Fox Hill and to the Fox Hill natural environment. Next. And this is an image of what the lobby outside the gym and music area could look like. So you can see that with a lot of natural wood, but a lot of glass, you can see the stairs going upstairs, so you don't feel like you're closed in. This also gives us the ability to build in benches and to kind of integrate that woodwork in with the glass enclosure. Next. And project areas. So again, as we had visited the Amesbury Elementary School, we looked at their project areas, then we looked at how we could improve on ours. We created these really fun boxes at the Amesbury School. We learned that the kids don't really use these nice open boxes because they don't have a whole lot of time to just sit around and do passive learning. So, and these project areas are also much larger than the ones that we will have. But what we do want to do is we want to create visual access from one project area to the other. So that's the image on the upper right-hand corner. You can see very clearly these broad views from, say you're on the classroom on the back side, the teachers can actually see out, and there's some collaboration then between the two classrooms, actually between the two project areas. And then we'll use tile and color along corridors for wayfinding as well as for durability. So you'll see on the right-hand side, we used the white tile throughout the corridors, and then we gave the corridors a different accent color depending on which floor you're on, and then the boys and the girls room will be a different color so that they can And we're right now trying to, well, it's so hard for us not to get ahead of ourselves. We're just saying, well, should we do different colors here? But wait, we're not doing colors yet. So again, we can't help ourselves, but we want you to get excited so that, we want you to kind of imagine what you think your school might look like. So colors are yet to come. Just know that we'll likely use 2 different colors for the boys and girls, again, for wayfinding. Next. And these are some of the renderings of what we imagine we could do for the project areas here for Fox Hill. So again, you'll see that we have a slightly lower boxes around the project areas. We don't have big open boxes, but we do have a box that actually has storage. We will also have storage in the project area for the carts, for device carts, so that we don't take up too much room inside the classrooms. We'll use different colors and different lights so that you can kind of see down the corridor and be able to recognize different project areas. And we'll use some natural wood again to bring in some interest and also to create portals between the different project areas and different grades. Next. And this is a view, again, from one project area to the other. We're creating that view corridor from one set of classrooms to the other. And then these are the classrooms that, some of the components in the classrooms. Again, so the larger image is of the storage wall, and that's in the open position. So that big white, that is the sliding marker board. In a closed position, you'll have a larger expanse of whiteboard. To either side of this whiteboard, we have a built-in teacher's desk on the right, and then we have 2 sinks on the left. A deeper sink for project-based learning. You could put buckets under that and fill it up should you want to create projects like volcanoes or fun stuff like that. And then the other sink will be shallower. That's an accessible sink. In the kindergarten areas, we will have cubbies, and that's similar to what's down on the lower right-hand corner. When we design these cubbies, we'll also have some space above for some more teacher storage. Okay, next. And these are just some of the additional views from the second floor, this second floor lobbies. And in this case, you'll see that there's an opening down to the floor below, and that's where the main entrance is. Library straight ahead. Next. And this is a view of that stair, the curved stair that leads you from the academic area towards the library. And next. Bye, Martha. And a view back. The library's on the left, and the stair towards the academic areas to the right. All right. And that is it. Boy, that was a lot more than, sorry. In any case, we, on the left-hand side, have noted some of the meetings, not all of the meetings we've had in Boulder, the most recent 2. We will have a follow-up sustainability meeting in the upcoming weeks. But in terms of input for the schematic design package, I feel like we've really had a lot of feedback, which has been really great. And that is it.
Can I take over the screen again, Bob? Attempt to. Okay. How it works. All right, so do we want to move on to the upcoming meetings? Yep. Okay.
Really doesn't want to cooperate.
Yeah, it's freezing when I link them together.
That's fine. You want to just go back? It's in the same.
Hang on.
Same presentation.
Wait one second.
One presentation coming.
Right, they just won't be able to see it on their screen. Actually, let me.
Just talk to it.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I get it, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm just gonna connect. I'm gonna click on it and connect it so they can see.
You want me to read it, or you want to read it?
There we go. Okay. So we put together a list of the proposed upcoming SBC meetings. They're running in conjunction to a couple of milestones that the project is going forward with. So we'd like to meet next on Tuesday, May 21st at 6 o'clock. We did check the town schedule. There is no school committee, there is no select board, and town meeting will be over, so that's, seems like a clear night. And then we will be putting together a budget, and we would like to bring that budget back to the SBC on June 4th. And at that point, we can review and decide if there's any value engineering needed. And again, on that night, there's no school committee or select board. And if needed, we would like to hold a placeholder for June 18th. If we do need to do any value engineering, we can come back together, discuss those items, and put it to a vote. So that would just be a placeholder meeting. And then we would like to meet on June 25th before the 7 o'clock school committee meeting. This would be a short meeting just to vote to submit the project to the MSBA, which would happen on the 27th. So essentially, the 21st and the 4th as hard meetings, and just the 18th as the placeholder before submission.
And just to clarify for folks, if they present the budget, they will present the budget on June 4th, once it's gone out to cost estimators. And then at that time, we will know if we need to or want to do value engineering. If there are no items, we won't meet on the 18th, but if we need to do value engineering, it gives us a good couple of weeks to review the items and then be able to vote on them on the 18th. Hopefully, we will have no need of the 18th meeting. We did skip the community meeting, but it's
Yes.
June 12th.
Yep, those are other important meetings
Yep.
here, but I was just making sure with this group that
Yep.
these meeting dates
Yep.
work. Great.
Yeah, so it's a critical time, as the information comes back from the project, our cost estimators. So it's helpful to hold an additional meeting in case we need it. If we get, I don't want to use the improper term and say really good news and that we don't need it. I think there's always things to consider in both directions for the committee to kind of think about and weigh as we get down to the submission of SD. But there's a lot going on, and I think at the next meeting, we'll introduce a bit of an educational piece just on how the timeline, and before we actually get there, try to set the table on what's going to the estimators, what might be optional scope to mull about or decide upon. So next meeting, we'll kind of introduce a short kind of educational process overview, so you know what to expect at the next couple of meetings as the process starts to unfold, so it's not a surprise.
Excellent. We are out of order now. Other topics, I do not have any. Do we have any public comments online? Going once? No? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.